They gave me a suitcase for my birthday. Not a trip. Not a warm family dinner. A suitcase, and then my father said, "You can pack tonight and be gone by morning." I just stood there, hands still on the bow, blinking at the gift, like I hadn't understood it right. My mother smiled, not cruelly, not kindly either. Just, like this had already been decided. My sister giggled. I think that's what broke me more than anything, how easy it was for them. Earlier that day, I had stopped by the grocery store and picked up a small chocolate cake. Nothing fancy. Just something I could put on the table and pretend we were still a family that remembered things like birthdays. I placed it down gently between the place settings when I walked in. No one even looked at it. Now we were at the table and they had handed me a box that wasn't a gift, but an eviction wrapped in ribbon. They didn't raise their voices, they didn't explain, and I didn't argue, I just said, "Okay," but I didn't understand yet, not fully, that this wasn't about money or space or attitude. This was about something far colder. They had stopped seeing me as family long before they asked me to leave. And I was the last to realize it. I didn't always live like a guest in my own family. Just 2 years earlier, I had my own little apartment, nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom tucked above a nail salon near the bus line. The walls were thin, the carpet was old, and the hot water was temperamental, but it was mine. Rented, yes, but I paid every cent on time. I packed my lunches, reused, coffee filters, bought secondhand, everything. My old Honda Civic was held together with prayer and duct tape, but it still got me to work and back. I was building something slowly, quietly. I had this dream that one day I'd buy a home. Nothing big, just a place with a small kitchen window and a lock that only I had the key to. That was the picture in my head every time I said no to dinner out or deleted an item from my online cart. My little sister Lily lived like she was on a different planet, 6 years younger and somehow light years ahead in designer handbags and vacation photos. She always had something new to show off when I came by for Sunday dinners. "Look, Anna, this is the Gucci tote I told Mom I needed for school." Or, "God, are you still wearing that sweater from Facebook like 2018? Mom never said anything. Sometimes she smiled. Sometimes she sighed. Like it exhausted her to see us so different. I thought maybe it was just a phase, that if I kept showing up, kept helping out, kept being the steady one, someone would eventually say, "We see you, we're proud of you." That moment never came. Instead, it was a Sunday. I remember because the pot roast was in the oven and Dad had that look, the one he wore when something uncomfortable was coming. "We need to talk to you," he said, not looking up. Mom folded her napkin tighter than usual. "Your father lost his job. They cut the entire department." I told them I was sorry. I meant it, but even as I said it, I could feel the air changing. "There's the mortgage," she said, "utilities, Lily's tuition," and then they looked at me, all three of them. "Would you consider moving back home?" my mother asked. "Just for a little while to help us through this." I didn't answer right away, because somewhere in the back of my mind a voice whispered, "If you go back, you may never come back out." Not because I wanted to, not because it made financial sense, but because I looked at my mother's red-rimmed eyes, my father's slumped shoulders, and Lily's quiet, uncharacteristic stillness. And I thought, I can help, I should help. I gave notice on my lease, put my furniture in storage, and returned to the pale blue bedroom I'd painted myself in 10th grade. Except now it was barely mine. Lily had turned it into a walk-in closet while I was gone. And though they'd cleared a path for a twin bed, her dresses still hung along the walls like silk wallpaper. That first night back, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, trying to believe my father when he said, "Just until I get back on my feet," I told myself it was temporary. That family means showing up even when it's hard. I set up a monthly transfer of $1,800 to my mother's account. Tuition mortgage bills. I never asked what exactly it went to. I only knew it disappeared fast and no one ever said thank you. At first things were okay. Mom made my favorite chicken pot pie. Dad called me his rock. Lily even asked how work was going once, but gratitude fades fast in houses where roles are fixed. By month 3, Dad had a new job. Less pay, longer commute. But it was something I waited for the conversation, the one where they'd say, "You've done enough. Start looking for your place again." Instead, Mom said, "Your father's salary isn't what we hoped." Just a little while longer, sweetheart. And I nodded, swallowing the urge to ask, how much longer? How much of me do you need? Things shifted after that. Subtly at first, my baths became wasteful. My presence at dinner was tense. Lasagna nights, once my comfort food were replaced with stir-fry, then quinoa bowls, then whatever Lily wanted that week. Groceries started including snack packs I never touched. My shampoo disappeared faster than I could replace it. Dad asked for gas money. Mom needed a quick 100 for her hair appointment because her card was acting up. The money never came back, and Lily, sweet, helpless. Lily was always arriving with something new, a smartwatch, shoes I couldn't afford on my full-time salary, makeup in glass jars and gold lids. Where's all this coming from? I asked one day. Not accusing, just confused. She rolled her eyes. Mind your business. Just because you live like a pauper doesn't mean the rest of us have to. I should have pressed harder, but I didn't. Because at that point, I still believed that if I kept giving, they'd remember who I was. Instead, I started to disappear. Not all at once. Just quietly, the way footprints vanish in falling snow. It happened on a Friday. I came home late from work again after spending the whole week buried under an emergency project dumped on me last minute. All I wanted was a hot bath, my book and silence. Instead, Lily was waiting at the bottom of the stairs, practically bouncing with excitement. There you are, she said. I need $700. No, hello, no, how was your day? Excuse me, I asked, setting my bag down. For my trip next weekend, she said as if it was obvious. Me and my friends are going to the beach, 3 nights, 2 hotel rooms. Everyone already paid. I just need your part. I blinked. My part. She huffed. I mean yours to cover me. God, you know what I mean? Something inside me cracked. You think I have $700 just lying around, I said, keeping my voice low. I give $1,800 every month to this house. I drive a 10-year-old car. I wear shoes with holes in them. You want me to pay for your beach trip? Lily's smile disappeared. Why are you being so dramatic? It's just money. I laughed, the bitter kind. No, Lily, it's not just money. It's work. It's sacrifice. It's the reason you get to sit in this house and live like a princess while I live like a ghost. You don't have to make it sound like charity, she snapped. I'm not. I'm making it sound like reality. Maybe if you got a job like I did in college, you'd understand what money actually means. Her eyes welled instantly. You're calling me lazy. You're calling me a burden. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. But she started crying. Loud, performative sobs that echoed down the hallway. Within seconds, Mom and Dad appeared like they'd been summoned. What's going on? Mom demanded, wrapping her arms around Lily. She called me lazy, Lily wailed, face buried in Mom's shoulder. She said awful things to me. Dad turned to me. Jaw clenched. Is that true? She demanded $700 for a beach trip. I said, voice shaking but controlled. I said no. That's it? And you told her to get a job? Mom asked coldly. I told her the truth. That's not your place, Dad snapped. I stared at them. Your house is running on my paycheck. I think I've earned the right to say something. And then Mom said it, the thing I'll never forget. There it is, she hissed. Every time we ask you for anything, you throw your money in our faces. I looked from one to the other. Their anger. Lily's smug, wet eyes behind her hands. That was the moment I knew. They didn't love me. They tolerated me until I stopped being useful. I walked away without another word, shut my bedroom door and sat on the bed I'd bought 10 years ago with a student stipend. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just saw everything for what it was. And then came the next day, my 27th birthday. No card, no greeting. No one said a word when I left for work. That evening, I walked through the door with a small chocolate cake I'd bought for myself, cheap plastic lettering curling at the edges. And they were there. All 3 of them sitting at the dining table, dressed nicely. A big box wrapped with a bow sat in the center. Mom smiled. The birthday girl. She said I set the cake down. What's that? Dad pushed the box toward me. Your gift. I opened it slowly. Inside was a brand new suitcase. Sleek, expensive. Too clean. Wow, I said, confused. Are we going somewhere? They laughed, not warm. Laughter, not even cruel, just like I was the last one to get the joke. "You are," Dad said. Mom leaned forward. "Pack your things. You're leaving tomorrow." I didn't speak a word after that. Not when they told me I was no longer needed. Not when Lily smiled across the table like she'd just won. Not even when I heard them downstairs later that night laughing, probably eating the cake I'd bought for myself. I lay awake in the same twin bed I'd once dreamed in as a girl, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the plaster like a prayer. At sunrise, I packed. The new suitcase they gave me held everything that still felt like mine. A few clothes work files, a second-hand laptop, and a photo of me at 18, holding my first paycheck with both hands, smiling like I thought hard work would always be enough. They were still asleep when I called the Uber. I didn't leave a note, just walked out the door and shut it gently behind me. I figured they wouldn't notice I was gone until they needed the next transfer. I stayed at a hostel that week. Bunk beds, shared bathrooms, a hallway that smelled like Lysol and burnt toast, but I could breathe. And after 2 nights of breathing, I texted Carol. Carol was my coworker, late 50s, sharp tongue, soft heart. She was the kind of woman who called everyone kid, wore thick eyeliner, and always had hard candy in her desk drawer. She didn't ask for details, just sent back, "Come by. We'll talk. I've got coffee and a couch." At her apartment, I cried for the first time. Not the kind of sobbing that rips your chest open. Just quiet, tears, slow and clean like a faucet, finally unstuck. Carol poured me coffee, handed me a blanket, and said, "You don't owe them your life, just because they gave you one." A week later, I found a studio apartment. Tiny, peeling linoleum. But the lease was in my name. The keys jingled in my hand like proof I still existed. I bought everything secondhand, a mattress, a desk, a single lamp with a crooked shade. Every item I placed in that room felt like a reclaiming. No one screamed through the walls. No one knocked unless it mattered, and no one told me I took up too much space. I made my first cup of tea and drank it standing up barefoot on cold tile, smiling like it was the best thing I'd tasted in years. 6 months passed. I didn't hear from them. Not a text, not an email, not even a fake birthday card sent late to pretend they forgot. And honestly, I was fine with that. I spent my time working late, taking on extra projects, rebuilding the savings account they had drained for 2 years. Without that $1, $800 disappearing each month, my balance grew faster than I expected. I didn't splurge. I still packed my lunches and washed dishes by hand. But now I chose that life. No one demanded it of me. That made all the difference. Then one afternoon my phone rang, an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. I wish I had. "Hello, Anna. It's Mom." I froze. Her voice had that syrupy tone she used when she wanted something soft, sweet, practiced. "We need to talk," she said. "Can you come by the house?" "No," I said flatly. "Say whatever you need now." There was a pause, then a deep sigh. "Your father lost his job again. They had another round of layoffs. Things have been difficult." I said nothing. "We've fallen behind on payments," she continued. "The bank's talking foreclosure. We don't know what to do." I could feel it coming like a storm already forming on the horizon. "We're asking you to come back. Just for a while. Help with the bills again." Like before I laughed, I couldn't help it. The audacity was almost impressive. "You kicked me out," I said on my birthday, after taking my money for months while lying about your situation. "We were under pressure," she said quickly. "You know your father. He says things he doesn't mean." "No," I said calmly. "I'm not coming back. Not now. Not ever." "You're our daughter," she said, voice tightening. "You should have thought about that before you treated me like an ATM with a birth certificate." I hung up. Over the next few days, the calls increased, new numbers, desperate texts. Even a voicemail from Lily saying, "I miss you. We need you." Then came the email from a lawyer, a real one I checked. The message was short but threatening. "Our clients are demanding restitution in the amount of $24,000 for unpaid room and board over 2 years at $1,000 per month." I almost laughed again, but this time I didn't just shake my head. I called James. James didn't waste time. He drafted a letter that same day. It was formal, professional, and devastating. He outlined the $43,200 I'd transferred over 24 months with bank records attached. He noted I'd lived in a half-converted closet, paid all bills without contractual obligation, and had been evicted without notice. His final paragraph sealed it. If your clients wish to pursue this matter further, we are prepared to counterclaim for the full amount of $43,200 plus legal fees and emotional damages. 3 days later, their lawyer replied with one line, "My clients have chosen not to proceed at this time. I thought that would be the end of it." But then 2 weeks later, I walked into my local bank to set up an auto transfer for my new savings plan and saw them. My mother and Lily seated at a loan officer's desk. They were dressed well, too well. Lily had on a blazer that probably cost more than my first month's rent. Mom wore pearls. Both were leaning in close to the banker, whispering with urgency. I almost turned around, but something in me said, "No, stay." I stepped to the back of the line, quiet, invisible, but I could hear everything. "We're just looking to refinance," Mom said smoothly. "There's no one else we can ask for help." The banker frowned. "No family support at all." She shook her head. "Just the two of us." I stepped forward. "Actually," I said, placing my folder gently on the edge of the desk, "you had help. $1, $800 a month for 2 years. Bank of America account ending in 2074, all transfers made on the 1st of each month." Lily went pale. Mom stiffened. The banker looked at them, then at me. "You're Anna," I said. "The daughter they forgot to mention." The room went quiet. Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. Lily stood up so fast, her chair scraped the floor. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I just laid down the documents, nodded to the banker, and turned to go. As I reached the door, I heard the banker murmur, "We'll need to update the file." I stepped outside. It was late afternoon, and the sun hit just right, warm and gold, like the kind of light you only notice when you're finally free. That was the last time I saw them. No more calls, no more emails, just silence, the clean kind, the kind you earn. 1 year later, I signed the papers for my first home, not a mansion, not a dream house, just a narrow little townhouse tucked near the edge of an older neighborhood, creaky steps, crooked mailbox weeds growing through the cracks in the driveway. It was perfect. The keys felt heavier than I expected. Maybe it was the weight of what they meant. This time, I was the only name on the deed. No co-signers, no conditions, no one else holding the door open just to push me through it later. I called Carol first. She showed up with housewarming coffee and a box of lemon muffins. We stood in my tiny kitchen while she inspected the cabinets like a building inspector and said, "It's not fancy, but it's yours." "That's the difference," I smiled. "It really is." Work had gotten better, too. James referred me to a new client, and I'd picked up side projects that gave me just enough extra to breathe. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't scared either. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was chasing survival. I was building something. Every now and then, a relative would mention my parents, how things were rough, how they were behind on Lily's last tuition payment, how the house might go into foreclosure. I didn't react. Not out of bitterness, just disinterest. Like hearing news about strangers from a town you moved away from long ago. I didn't hate them. I simply no longer belonged to them. I had unhooked myself from the idea that blood is a life sentence. Now when I walk through my front door, I don't brace myself. I don't listen for footsteps, don't flinch at raised voices. The silence here is mine, and it's kind. Sometimes I still think about the suitcase. I keep it in my closet, not as a reminder of how they pushed me out, but of how I walked away. I thought I lost everything that day, but what I really lost was the illusion that I was ever loved for who I was. And in its place, I found something better. A home, a boundary, a voice, and finally a life that belongs only to me. Sometimes I wonder if they ever tell people about me, if they say I moved away, if they claim we grew apart, if they sit around the dinner table 2 forks instead of 3, pretending nothing is missing. I imagine Lily still complaining about her professors still taking up more space than she needs. I picture my mother staring at bills she can't quite pay, sighing dramatically into her teacup saying, "It used to be easier when Anna helped," but never saying what really happened, never saying who they chose to push out and why. And I don't need them to confess. I don't want an apology because I never disappeared. I paid the mortgage. I covered the tuition. I kept the lights on when they wouldn't even look me in the eye. I was there every month, every meal, every quiet sacrifice. They just pretended not to see me. Now I don't speak their names, but I leave proof behind, the suitcase still in my closet, the emails archived unanswered. The house I bought mine and fully paid. So if anyone ever asks what happened to the older daughter, the quiet one, the steady one, they'll have to choose. Keep lying or finally admit they lost the only person who ever showed up when it mattered. Because I didn't vanish, I was erased, and now I live beyond the margins where no one can touch me again.